Okay, welcome to part 4. Okay, we're comparing communism, socialism, and as basically it is a Royal German Empire spy department creation. And there are many people that don't understand this historically, and it has taken many decades for the research to finally surface because of the enormous size of the captured informations and the various complexities involving people that had all kinds of information, didn't have the money to track everything down. And of course, there's that small thing where you have people that basically were receiving bribes from the Royal German Empire in relation to chemical plants, pharmaceutical companies inside the United States, an array of other things there. So there were some other problems. So, as this information now surfaces, a lot of these other people are dead. It doesn't matter that, there's this evidence they took a bribe. Well, that doesn't matter anymore because they're dead, basically, for all intents and purposes. I mean, you can convict them of treason. There's no statute of limitations, respectively, but what good does that do the rest of us at the moment? It's great. Instead of the guy being immortalized as a great leader, people are going to want to come by and maybe urinate or something on his stone or something. Anyhow, let's move forward with the practical. The practical here now is we need to talk about the solutions, see, because we have real solutions here that are available that are crucially important. And this basically means we have to deal with certain legal structures. Colonial constitutional capitalism. We have the group that is validated that is pre-revolution. This is where you have parties who already have laws and contracts that were already in existence that had to be honored and validated by the Constitution of the United States. Now, if any good historian is going to be able to look some of that up for you and be able to show that to you, that there were an understanding of pre-existing contracts, that people wanted to make sure that those would be honored, and the answer is definitely yes. And there's many, many types of these contracts that were out there, and legal contracts and understanding in many different ways. Some people say, oh, well, you're just talking about slavery and people's deeds or titles to humans. No, actually, there was a whole lot of other stuff pertaining to people's personal property rights that have nothing to do with slavery, unless these are people trying to escape slavery. But anyhow, in my view, nothing's good unless we go into solutions. So it's a solutionism time to deal with the positives of the colonial constitutional capitalism, because basically we have a whole lot of really neat stuff here to go ahead and review, basically, because we did the pre-group. Then we have group 1, which is basically you have the Constitution just passed, post, and then you have what's known as Group 1. These are all the people that were hanging out when the great land purchases started occurring. So the government steps up and says, oh, hey, we found this opportunity. It's a great land deal, but we got no money, okay? We got no money. So here we have a situation where people were promised things. Okay, we got a great idea. What we're going to do is we can't go door knocking all over the country to get an equal amount from everyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a temporary tax. And we're calling that the mechanism we're going to utilize to collect money, because why? It's the only mechanism actually in place currently that we can utilize. So people says, oh, it's not perfect, but okay, fine. We'll vote yes. So the deal is, you got all these people running around telling what the deal is. The deal is very simple, okay? Every American citizen at that time became a stockholder. They were entitled to mineral residuals. dividends from the deals that would be get done, as well as land stakings. Okay, so this is very important. It's very, very important. Now, back then, people might have said, what's collective stock worth in land? Okay, set that aside for a moment, okay, because today it's very important. It's very, very important because we're also going to compare it against generalized standardized income, which, basically we don't need to do that. I'll tell you why I'm not for that. I'll get into that. Okay, so basically we have several ways we can look at this legally. We have the original contracts. We have all these other different references to stuff, and something's gone horribly wrong. It's gone horribly wrong because we have Group 1, and by the way, we also have Group 2 that comes up. Group 2 comes up in an understanding that in conjunction with Group 1 and other pre-existing parties, which also actually technically are in Group 1 for all intents and purposes at this moment, we acquired a whole lot of land from Britain. I think we actually got some the other day again, too. Britain turned over another base or something and did a lease back or something. I don't know. Basically, there's a whole lot of land that gets split with Group 2. Group 2 gets to split land with Group 1. So this means we have all this wonderful land. I hope people like beachfront property. I really do. Beachfront property can really, really be wonderful. We have gorgeous beaches all over the world, and we own them. We own them. This is a collective purchase. Now, remember, the government has no money. Let's never forget the fact that the government has no money. See, the government can't own us. We're the bosses. That's another one of these things, and people are missing it. So it's crucially important to be able to deal with this situation with the deep understanding. So Group 1 splits with Group 2, respective to the ownership of the new acquired land. Now, the way this comes out, basically, as near as I can figure when I'm working with different statistics, is Group 1 gets the equivalent of a specialized permastock. You can only pass it to your kids, basically. We could set a few exceptions aside, but that's a little complex to lay out. So, in other words, there's reasons because you don't want other people to get a hold of certain acquisitions. The government can never inherit stock. It's another thing that's important. We're going to explain that. So, the value is like $80 million per citizens. Just go on Google Map, look at the continental United States, look at Alaska, and you'll understand, oh my goodness, look at all this land. Okay, so the representative stock, as it is a business, is worth $80 million per citizen, okay? But that doesn't even scratch the surface of the true value of the stock. Now, Group 2, the stock starts out like $10 million. Okay? So between these two groups, we're basically talking about more than 60% of the citizens in the country. And this is very important because by finally doing something, recognizing the deal, and actually issuing the stock, we do something. We basically create an entire middle class in this country overnight, literally overnight. Okay, so if you own stock in the land, again, look at Google Map, look at the size of our wonderful country, and understand you're rich. Okay, you're rich. The government can't actually own the land. They're only entrusted with the management to a certain point. And by the way, that hasn't worked out, so we have to change that. Now, we also have other things that are important. The other things that are important are voting rights. The voting rights for Group 1 pertain to Group 1. This is very important. In other words, these people that came after Group 1, they don't have a right to vote concerning matters that are already encapsulated respective to group one. So you, as group one, have the right to block people from diluting your vote. Welcome to law. Welcome to law. Welcome to contracts. Welcome to continued validation of the deal the way we did the deal. So now let's go to group two. With group two, they're splitting with group one because the acquisition of these items is connected to group one and group two, which we're cutting it off right after World War II. And then we're going into the next group, which would be group three. We'll talk about how that ends up working out a little bit later. Okay, so again, we have group two, which is entitled to the same deal, basically, and so they have a vestation, but it's way less land. It's a whole lot of ocean, but surface area, it's a lot of less land, and mineral rights, it's a lot of less land. So it's $10 million. Okay, and so in other words, that's the deal. So all of us in group one are like, hey, none of y'all have the right to steal what we paid for in cash. Crucially important. So we get to deal with this understanding. Now, how is this important? It's important because we don't need to follow these different people's ideas, Yang, this, that, the other thing. You had, I think, Payne had something that he said. I forget exactly what he said at this point. I have to look it up again. Refresh my memory about a certain land, a certain type of standardized income. And I think most people misunderstand, I'm pretty sure, of what Payne was talking about, William Payne or whatever. Anyhow, but so let's get into this. So you cannot allow the government to own the stock. Why? Because people in government will murder you and take your stock and take your stuff. You can never allow the government to have power of ownership over your stock, over your land, over your stock. And people are like, huh? What? I'm confused. Yeah, it's really simple, basically. You would have people in government at local levels that would say, oh, well, yeah, we're just going to take all these people's vested stock. We're going to murder them. And that solves all the problems for our town. And because we're the rulership, we can now spend money like drunken sailors and sell the stock and do all this stuff. So in other words, part of the deal is, once again, government cannot get a hold or obtain the stock. Okay. Why? The government, these are hired employees or elected employees. Okay. So it's crucial to understand, okay, because these people are going to say, well, we're in charge. We own everything. You're a pawn. No. Okay. So you can't allow them to ever get a hold of stock no matter what. Okay. Just can't do it. Okay. So otherwise they'll murder you. You'll have people in government, they'll murder people left and right. So we have to protect our lives and say, no, can't pass that way. So this passes to your lineage, to your children, basically. Now, unfortunately, you have people that die and they have no one to pass their stock to. Okay. You have a certain number of people that die each year, and it comes out to like, if they die and what we do is we buy the stock back. If people die, we buy the stock. How do we do this? Well, we're going to buy the stock based on a 30-year or more loan. And then we're going to make these payments basically on, like a yearly or monthly basis. So when we do this, it comes out to $8 billion, okay? We buy the stock, so we end up getting more shares. So our shares are going up unless we have kids. Now, when we have kids, we issue stock to the kids because we already have stock if the kids are born. The stock gets issued, brand new stock. If you're group one, it's a group one stock, $80 million. If it's a group two, it's $10 million. Your kids get that stock. Okay. Now, there's crucial things about this, the way it works, and that is to say that You can't have people that come into the country illegally and say, great, I'm going to pop out a kid. Here you go. Now the kid gets $10 million worth of stock. No, doesn't work that way. Does not work that way. So why? Because then there would be incentive of people worldwide to break the law, illegally enter the country so that they can end up with stock. Nope, doesn't work that way. Okay, so in other words, you have these people that the vestation time is the cutoff point just after World War II. So you have to be directly related to somebody who was a citizen, and basically around World War II, or there's after the Great Land Purchases, and definitely we're cutting it off at World War II. Okay, because that's when he got all that land from Britain. Okay, now, so so basically, if you're not in Group 1 or Group 2, you might be out of luck. Now, we're going to talk about Group 3 later on. I got to do some more statistics on that. There's a floating. It's a nightmare system. Still got to work with that. But there is a Group 3. I'm going to tell you right now, there is a Group 3. So basically, the way this works is the people who die, we're going to buy the stock. We collectively buy it back. We're going to reabsorb it, okay, the percentages. A lot of this is going to be done with blockchain technology. So we're simplifying a lot of this. But there's going to be a whole bunch of web forums respective to governance and various business opportunities. I'll explain more about that as we go along. But basically, people are going to be get into collective volume purchases, all kinds of stuff. So the way this works is the stock was purchased. It's $8 billion. That's simple money. We'll take the simple money. We're going to cut it in half. Okay, now we're going to take half the money. We're going to invest it into what? Software. We're going to have $4 billion worth of custom software engineered for us. And we own it, lock, stock, and barrel. We're commissioning to have it made. We own it. That's our property. We own the copyrights. We own everything about it. Anything being used for patent or whatever, we own that. We own it outright. Now, okay, so that's $4 billion. Takes about a year to get that software done, okay? So what do? We're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it to each of us in Group 1. That's about 175 million citizens in Group 1, and approximately 100 million people in Group 2, by the way. So that gives us that wonderful statistic of 275 million people that effectively are getting some sort of stock, okay? So you now have Group 1, and Group 2 is a little different deal, but Group 1, we just added $4 billion, that's with a B, $billion worth of stock, worth of software. See, we're going to, as stewards, we would all put in for it. We'd say, okay, we're a steward, and someone's going to say, I got this business, and someone's going to say, I got this other business, someone's going to say, I got this other business. Here's all the need to do this. Okay, so we get it commissioned, it's made, so we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it. Okay, because to each one of us, that's 175 million times. Group 2 is a little different deal. The money increment comes out different as to how many people die on the stock deal. So it's Group 1 we're talking about right now, okay? So that's $80 million worth of stock, and we're adding $4 billion worth of software added. Now, we can also sell some of the software for use if it's not non-export, so to speak, national security, whatever, to other people around the world. So that's an income. Okay, we can do that. Okay, you following this along? Okay, but we own $4 billion worth of stock. That means that any kind of, for the most part, any kind of software you could possibly imagine, you now own a copy, a cutting edge copy. Boom, there it is. Okay. Wow. So what does that do? Now, comparative to the rest of the world, you have people, you've got like 3.84 billion people in the world that are kind of sort of poor, which means they look up at Americans and it's like, well, they just got $80 million worth of stock. Okay. Well, it's land stock. And they just got $4 billion worth of software. So the other people they're not vested. They haven't moved forward with whatever deal that they're doing. Not that some of them couldn't. Now, by the way, some of them can do it. We'll get into that as well. So now we have, with colonial constitutional capitalism, our group power. Okay, group power. Company, corporation has investors. Okay, we're the investors. We're capitalists, we're investors. Okay, this is capitalism. Just wanted to make sure for you people that don't understand. Okay, so now we have opportunities if we're going to get into business or whatever. We have like more software than we could possibly need. And other people around the world don't have that. Kind of, sort of. Okay, now, people are going to say, well, software keeps devaluating. Okay, yes, it does. I don't want to get into how all that works. But collectively, an American citizen in Group 1 is incredibly powerful and rich. If you think about it, you're very, very rich. And go, wow, this is amazing. So the stock, the other $4 billion, we're going to divide out into residuals that are going to go to us each month. Divides by 12 and times, divided into the 175, and you end up with this teeny tiny small income. So as we keep adding items to it, we get to the point where we're getting $160 a month, $300 a month, and then it keeps going up, and we get to the point where we get up to $3,800 a month because we're doing all these other little steward deals. Okay. And we're developing all this different land. We want things. What happens? Well, we're using our volume leverage power as a group. We're 175 million people, and some of us are gravitating to different forum areas. I like this group over here. Yep. Let me add myself in. Whoa, I just became the 5 millionth person to join this group. And we've decided we're going to develop yada yada something. Okay? So loan-wise, we're good for it. We're good for it, loan-wise. Eventually, this keeps going. It keeps going. People are talking about things they want. They want to buy stuff wholesale. We start getting incredibly powerful deals. Now, we're also doing something else. We're going to invest it. Why? Well, some of us want things. For instance, there's a lot of people say, I want cases and no salt. They got no salt. I can't find any no salt food. So fine. So we're going to have all these warehouses that are no frills where this stuff's going to arrive at. We're going to build these from scratch in strategic places around the country. Now, we're going to build at 70 cents on the dollar of retail. Okay? So that means that there's 30% equity that's going to come into play on these items. Now, we're going to have different little areas where we're going to do things and say, okay, we have Group 1 vested, but we have other people that might want something. And we can say, okay, we could possibly put it up for a vote. Let's discuss this in governance as to what we're going to do with this. So as we develop the property is already worth more money. We know it's going to be worth more money when it gets done. So now we have these unique ways of financing stuff because we can finance things on an incredible level. And there's other things we can connect to the sale. In other words, we're going to buy this. Built into the purchase is going to cost us this much percentage more. We're going to raise the price this much more. So when you go to buy it and go to pick it up, there's a percentage that's going to end up going into the coffers respective to the location. And this is what is needed to hire some people to basically facilitate assisting the warehousing, etc., and the land payments. Not the land payments, the construction cost. Why the land? Well, we own the land. It's our land. This land is our, your land, our land, whatever. Okay, look, it's only our land. Okay, Group 1. Okay, so basically, there's like 100 different ways to make this completely massively solvent. Then we're going to do things like we're going to make our own treasury. We're going to say, okay, look, We're not satisfied. We want our own collective treasury. So we're going to get together in groups and we're going to do things and say, okay, well, when silver goes way low, we get to do governance voting. You can opt in or opt out and say, yeah, I want to buy some silver coins. Or, we're going to make our own silver coins. They're steward coins. They're commemoratives. We can also sell them to people who are not stewards and make a little sliver on it, okay? So these are our special commemorative coins. This is our mint that we're going to be making, okay? This is our new treasury we're going to be making. And we have other governance voting rights. So we're adding new governance voting rights, which is actually restoring the ones we had to begin with. And it's a closed group. It's like, if you're not in group one, you don't get to vote in group one. Unless we get together, maybe we get together and say, well, maybe we could do some kind of strange co-investment for a buy-in. Let's say, I mean, it could get, you can turn around and say, okay, who could afford to buy in? And, Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or, whoever, could be Britain, Canada, whatever. We could talk about that. We could talk about it, but it has to be a good deal, a lucrative deal. So if we decide that we want to allow certain people to come in based on certain buy-in concepts, we can discuss all these different percentages. There's a lot of creative territory to work with the land stock, okay? The land stock, our federal stock, okay? So us as stewards, we can also do things. We can also do things such as make our own governance at a newly different level. So we have our steward governance, and then we can also have additional specialized voting and other specialized powers. It's actually quite elaborate, and it models out really, really well. I've got like 22 shows or something someplace that I've made to explain how it works. So the thing about generalized income, we don't need generalized income, because we have group one and group two. There's 275 million of us that in some way are collective landowners that are entitled to our stock. Okay, so group one, this is inescapable. It has to happen. So here we have all of these different ways that we're going to invest in different things based upon us being a mass collective. Now, the way I worked it out is people die, they die every month, say. So as people are dying that don't have kids, we purchase their stock back. It's a buyback to us on the whole as a mass collective. Now, I realize some people say, well, there's people running around killing people. I says, to be divided by 175 million? That doesn't really sound real lucrative, but you definitely can't allow the other thing I talked about, because locals would murder you. You'd have somebody that don't have enough money that wants to spend money like a drunk sailor. You can't allow the government to take the stock. Never. So then we also get to control things like taxes. In other words, about our stock, and about anything we do. We don't want to pay any taxes on anything we do. So what else could we do with this in the solution? Well, there's a lot of other things. We can do a thing and say, well, you know what? Constitutionally, we did agree to give something towards the common defense. Okay. So what we're going to do is it's going to end up like blockchain stuff. So instead of us paying taxes, what we're going to do is we're going to make coins. Say, we're going to make cryptos. And what they're going to do is, when the estimated approved tax, we have to vote on that, approved consideration as though tax or financial contributing, let me see, we provide for the common defense. Okay. The agreed providing provision respective to a given item decided by us, the stewards, I'd say only by us, is going to have something. So it's going to be automatic taxation, right? But no. So instead of you paying taxes and doing all the book work and the accounting work, no, 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 no. It's blockchain. So whatever we decide that percentage ends up being, new cryptos are basically going to get made. So that's what the